course, kids with drones are needed, Tatiana. Mindich will buy the drones and all the kids should get involved since many drones will be needed. It's a good deal for Mindich and Zelensky. You have a friend who's President Vova on the tapes. And do you think Vova is sitting there without a cut? Vova gets his share. If you don't do it, then it turns out they can do anything. Will Africans and marriages with 14-year-old girls bother you? Does that disgust you? You'll say yes, all normal people would, but Zelensky doesn't care. Will this interfere with Firepoint's work? It will only make it better.
Welcome to the Liberty UA channel. Today we are joined by Denis Yelisevych, an entrepreneur and political figure. Welcome, Denis.
Hello, Tatiana.
We encourage our viewers to subscribe to Denis Yelisevych's channel. Please subscribe to liberty.ua, like our videos, and leave your comments. Be sure to share our video. And if you want to watch short clips of our videos, subscribe to the Liberty TV channel. Today, Denis will have a live stream, so I encourage viewers to join the stream and listen to the information that will be provided there. But we will also touch on this issue very briefly. Ukrainska Pravda published new transcripts today of conversations in the Mindich case so far. Basically, the same people are involved as before. Certain details are being added. What we found out was that there was talk about a cash out of $300 million for the shareholders of a company working in the defense industry. We found out about the mansions that are being built. So what do you think? What struck you about this? And what do you think people should do with this information? People in the parliament?
You know, Tatiana, what impressed me the most? Not the tapes, not the first ones, not the ones that were published yesterday. I'm impressed by the reaction of people, the reaction of political figures, politicians, law enforcement agencies, and the opposition. Tatiana, the fact that yesterday Ukrainska Pravda, well, we should think, why did they publish it? It was already evening for me, and I think all of Ukraine had already gone to bed by that time. And in Europe, it was already late too. I immediately sat down to listen. Never, I know this as someone connected to the media, you would never publish on YouTube at night when your audience is asleep. That means it had to be done urgently for some reason. Maybe someone else could have beaten them to it. Maybe it was urgently needed for some event. It's published. That's it. By the time I wake up in the morning, everyone has already watched it. But where is the reaction? Honcharенko is funny on the radio. Do you get what's so troubling about people like him and other career politicians? He makes a show out of it for his own ratings. He shouldn't be trying to bring down Zelensky. He should be trying to make Ukraine better. At least try. They use this to build their own ratings and PR. This is impeachment. This is impeachment. There was Vova Zelensky, Andrei Yermak. It's about something terrible, about the fact that the company Firepoint is at the heart of the corruption. Do you understand? And now, people, I'm addressing everyone. And now do you understand why there is no peace? And now do you understand why there's rudeness towards President Trump? Because it's about competition over arms. Do you now understand why Zelensky doesn't need an alliance with the US at all? Because the US will say, listen, you produce so cheaply, make them for us, and sure, but of course that will come with political obligations. But for Ukraine, having an ally like that would look like this. Like Israel and the US. Do you know how many joint developments they have? There's a technology exchange, not 100% of course, no one will give 100%, but in many areas. Why does Israel need this? They need such an ally, they need to trade, they need a strong partner. But Zelensky doesn't need any of this. He has Europe, all these mini buses to Hungary, and it's still unclear if someone from Europe is involved in this. You understand? So what do we have? Ukraine. It's not a state that needs something, not a country that needs people. It's a territory where the little king became an arms baron, and I was the first to say that he was an arms baron. And yesterday everything was confirmed on the tapes, a straight up arms baron. Hundreds of millions of dollars, tenders for $7 billion. So look, the money from Western partners is going to finance Zelensky's business. Now, do you understand why there's a drone war? Now, do you understand why these drone guys are everywhere now? And there are fake barbershops, including real ones too. All this on TV. It's being brushed aside. Now, do you understand why people are being grabbed off the streets? They live a better life. They're making money. And these people are just cannon fodder. People are treated as cannon fodder. They round them up and send them to the front. Oh, you say something? Then you're a Kremlin agent. Shut your mouth. Tatiana, do you remember this? I heard that said about me back in 22. Why did you start this? Some people, after victory, seem lost and just drift. And the others? Yes, after the war. I've always said the same thing, even now. I had a very unpleasant phone conversation with a volunteer. I said, after the war, the government won't be pleasant. They need to be asked questions right away. Everyone's been bought. Everyone's been bought. Tatiana, these people are making big money off the war. Their companies are worth billions of dollars. Their tenders are worth billions of dollars. They have international contracts. Do you know why Zelensky announced yesterday that he agrees to export? That's why. Budanov comes out and says, I'm against exporting, because that's not Budanov's business, it's Zelensky's business. I'm not praising Budanov, I'm just discussing the latest information. So, these guys are playing big. There's some volunteer there. We've seen, yes, who's in America now among the volunteers. There's Berlinska, who was mentioned there. There's this one, that one, and another. That one's up front with the drones doing secret work. Yes, maybe they're fighting with their left hand, but with their right hand, they're making money. And all of you, I'm talking about people like me, all of you are crap. This is our country now. But it's not a country anymore, it's just territory. You understand? For me, it's a country. For them, it's just territory. Squeeze out the money and leave.
What should the parliament do? Because I watched how the parliament reacts. Well, for example, Yaroslav Zalizniak, he's streaming. He's telling in his stream what's happening. Yesterday, Rustam Umarov came and spoke in the Verkhovna Rada. He also said that he thinks this is already a political issue. The people who are questioning him are not experts in this matter. He will give testimony to law enforcement agencies. The deputies claim they can't be mobilized due to important current work and lack of replacements. They refuse to go to the front, suggesting exemptions be removed from others instead. So what are the expectations from the parliament? What is the parliament capable of right now?
You did that notorious interview with Major General Yahun from the Ukrainian Security Service and asked him a similar question. He replied, so what do you propose? Dissolve parliament and just watch? He said, there's nothing to do but cry.
Are you trying to challenge the Verkhovna Rada?
Yes, they should sit and not cry. Hold parliamentary elections. Hold elections to the parliament. You asked what the parliament should do now? I answer you. Initiate impeachment. Initiate impeachment. Remove Zelensky's friend Stefanchuk from the position of chairman of the Verkhovna Rada. Gather somewhere again, maybe in the Ukrainian House or somewhere else. Vote by hand, which the constitution allows. Elect a new chairman. Carry out a palace coup. Non-political. Not to remove Zelensky, but to replace the Verkhovna Rada chairman and call elections. Dissolve themselves. Begin impeachment. Tatiana, action is needed. The country must be saved. I've been urging elections for so long. I'm against revolutions and coups. I always tell you, only by democratic means. Elections, that's the only way. No matter what you say to them, someone shouts, let's have a revolution and overthrow them. That's against the law. I always support only the democratic way. You're bad. You're working for someone. People, so now who was right? Yelisevych was right. Not to praise myself, but because I knew all this, it was all obvious to me. And people don't even realize that they still don't know 95% of it. In reality, our poor people are carrying the burden themselves, and the real military who are not pretenders. An ordinary Ukrainian man is carrying everything on his own back, dying, losing his health, while these bastards, there's no other word for them, are making money. They're building houses. Can you believe how crazy these people are? Yermak and Zelensky thought they'd live in Kiev. They think that everyone will forgive them, that no one will come back, that the enemies will just disappear somewhere. They think the SBU will cover for them here, and they'll just live peacefully here in Kiev. Build houses like... Oh, I even think about it. Mindich was clearly building his house with cash. And ask yourselves, I'll talk about this in detail on the stream, and tell me, whose money did Zelensky use to build his house, Yermak? Sure, out of that common fund. Do you think Firepoint isn't connected to Zelensky and Yermak? I think even on the recordings. You see, I see stupid people. First of all, I hear stupid people on the recordings. They're not entrepreneurs. This has nothing to do with business. This is a classic example of people who make money alongside the government. They're just people with money. These are wealthy people, but not entrepreneurs or businessmen. With the right connections, a friend who's president, and a war, even a monkey could become a billionaire. And that's why it's not operating under market conditions. Even if engineers there created some kind of rocket or drone, it's not under market conditions. This arms baron built his business thanks to this war. These are the questions society should be asking. Now, every Ukrainian should, everywhere this topic is discussed. On Zelensky's page, everywhere. Impeachment, resignation, resignation, impeachment. The Verkhovna Rada doesn't want to do anything. Resign, impeach. You deputies will be held accountable after the war and imprisoned for your inaction. As accomplices.
People want justice. People understand that the deputies are doing this to the people, but the deputies keep doing what they do and they don't even think about stopping. For example, against the backdrop of such events, the contents of the tapes were already published yesterday. The Rada passed the new civil code in the first reading, which is being called the legalization of the big land grab. That's what people are calling it. They say it was under the EU's demand, that it was about marriages, but marriages aren't that important. To close the possibility of returning stolen land and forests to the state. That is, if someone once illegally registered some state property to themselves in the registry, it can no longer be taken away by court. Because this is a requirement of the European Union to create such laws. So what you're saying about impeaching the president, well, they were even afraid to think about something like that. They discussed this bill and already passed it in the first reading.
So, look, let's start from the end. You're talking about this land that can't be returned. Why the European Union? In Western civilization, the right to private property is inviolable. This is supposedly to prevent dispossession, so no one enters politics to settle scores or take things from others. Honestly, that concerns me less than what you brought up earlier. Marriage is at 14. That's how it is in Sharia law countries, you understand? It's in very specific countries and societies. This isn't about Christian religion, is it? None of this applies to us. This all concerns other people, and for them, that's the norm. To me, that's not normal. Pedophilia isn't normal anywhere. But in some religions, it's legalized. Let's not name them. So why is that done? Let everyone think about it. That's because women who are already adults, of legal age, are all quietly leaving. It's almost impossible to find a groom in Ukraine today. This is being published everywhere. They're all leaving for Europe, getting married, they're looking for partners there. This is just to keep things moving, if you can even call it that. So let 14-year-old girls marry, for example, Africans who come to Ukraine, or Bangladeshis or Nepalis, and there you have Ukraine. But why am I saying this now? And how are people supposed to process this in their heads right away? And ask yourself this question. Will Africans and marriages with 14-year-old girls bother you? Does this disgust you? You'll say, yes, normal people would be disgusted, but Zelensky doesn't care. And will this interfere with Firepoint's work? No, it will only improve it. Now these cheap slaves will come work for $200, for $500. I mean hard labor, 24/7. Do you understand what it means to produce weapons? It's backbreaking labor. This is no small thing, it's hard labor. And they'll do all this for pennies, for $300, and Zelensky will get richer. He doesn't care at all. His daughter won't get married at 14. She'll marry some Western guy. And that's it. They don't need Ukraine. And they build their houses behind fences. There's even video of it. Find it online, copy it. Cooperative or zero. Just like with Putin, cooperative dynasty. Cooperative dynasty. They built a fence like this so no one could see. But in America, Tatiana, fences are forbidden. It's forbidden to build them. Here, there are houses worth 20 million right next to you. You drive by and see everything. And over there is Bezos, and over there is someone else, and someone else. Well, Bezos is on an island, not on the islands. It's legal. Here, it's like in Florida, there are islands, they buy on the islands. But even without the islands, there's plenty of expensive property. Sports stars, show business people, lawyers, doctors, no fences at all. You pass by on a boat and see houses right on the water. That's normal everywhere else. But here, someone robs the country and oppresses the people. An 8-meter fence and that's it, goodbye, go away. He drives out with a security convoy. All the groceries, food, everything was bought for him by the people. The housekeepers did everything. The children were taken to specialized schools with security and picked up again. Everywhere there's security. But that's not the life of an average Ukrainian. Even for a well-off Ukrainian, I should note, security wasn't necessary before. Now, because of what I'm saying, I will need it. In business, I never needed security since I never cheated anyone. I worked in private business, not with the government. Authorities can't be interested in me since I always kept a kilometer away on principle, never getting involved in government tenders or money, even when I could. That's how it is. And people absolutely have to think about this, ask questions, and put crazy legal pressure on all of this. Taking advantage of my position, I'll advertise the merch that's going to be launched. My merch! And here's your legal way to express protest. Not to insult someone, not to wear a caricature of Zelensky, but ideological things. That's what needs to be done. Everything we can do.
I saw some information there. I saw information on your Telegram channel. Can you explain how people can unite? What does uniting mean? What should they do? How can they join this process? And then if they become participants, how can they show themselves? And what is the ultimate goal of this organization?
Look, this is a virtual organization. It's not a legal entity. Merch is a way to see how many people, so to speak, will show themselves as being involved in the cause. How many people will identify themselves. And if it's thousands of people, then it's already a political movement and we can talk about something. If it's 500 people or 1,000, then it's just merch. The first libertarian merch in the history of Ukraine, Denis Yelisevych's merch. But thousands, that's a political movement. A political movement that's based on an ideology and with the idea of making Ukraine successful. Not to put someone in jail, send someone to the front, ask for a loan, put someone in prison because I don't like them, or silence someone. Not like that. Completely different values, real Western ones.
People, if you have such an initiative, please join this virtual organization and show yourself if you can't stand it anymore. But let's get back to these NABU tapes. We see that the parliament might not take any action and there is no constitutional court. We have NABU, the National Anti-Corruption Bureau. They are publishing an article today and writing about what these people are proposing to do. They say that changes need to be made to the Criminal Procedure Code and other laws. Simply put, they want to control people's accounts. If before they needed a court order, now if they need to check where money was withdrawn from which accounts, for what and to whom. An important point, the investigation will have no time limits. If before there was such a thing as the Lozovi Amendment, when a case was closed because the time limit expired, now cases will not be closed. And this case can last much longer or even indefinitely. So what else do they want? They want to get the right to investigate cases against the heads of the SSU, SBI, and BS. So NABU does this if everything is organized by the main law enforcement officers of the country. Change your attitude toward this situation. What do you think this has to do with it? Will they act according to the law and in the interests of the people? NABU?
And you were talking about NABU, about access to accounts and all that? Yes.
This is a NABU initiative. That's the accusation that was brought against me.
Okay.
It's not accepted yet. That's what they're aiming for. They want it to be like that so they can work efficiently. Look.
I support this, since we're talking about the service, which is the Special Anti-Corruption Bureau. If we're talking about accessing an entrepreneur's or an ordinary citizen's accounts without a court decision, banking secrecy should apply there. But if you're a government official and you have access to state funds, I don't agree that some minor officials should be doing this. Well, admit it, that would be ridiculous. What's the point of that? From a certain level, definitely a member of parliament. A minister or deputy minister, definitely. Definitely an employee of the National Bank. This concerns certain flows. So, I support this. But I want to tell you, did you notice that these tapes were published again yesterday, not independently, by Ukrainska Pravda, possibly in connection with, this is very likely, 6 months after we first found out about all of this. What's my point? It's very slow. And of course, if they are given more opportunities, maybe things will speed up. But on the other hand, society should put pressure on NABU as well. If a person now, a Ukrainian, whether in Ukraine or not, but wants to return, who cares about Ukraine, he should sit down and think. And do you understand that if nothing is done now, then it turns out they can do anything they want? Do you understand? So there actually isn't a red line. So it turns out that tomorrow they'll show us a video with Zelensky, with Mindich, dumping a bag of money onto his table like this. And they're tossing it around and they'll say it's artificial intelligence. So it turns out anything goes. So it turns out there's nothing that would make people say, listen, we've put up with everything for years, but we're at war. And this is something that absolutely can't be done. Tatiana, this isn't even peacetime, this is war. At first I thought, well, maybe things would be different during war, but it's the opposite. War has given even more opportunities. It gave cover for dictatorship and justification. And basically to tell everyone to get lost, to crush the press, to suppress freedom of speech, and to do whatever they want. Today, Zelensky, Yermak, and their whole crew can do anything. Absolutely anything. They can plunder the budget, shove people into vans, and even defy Trump. It's a nightmare. Ukraine is facing catastrophe and is on the verge of apocalypse. Everything is very bad, and I've said this so many times already. And when I said it, people told me, you're exaggerating. Well, am I exaggerating?
People are afraid to express their opinions because they're afraid of the authorities. Because no matter what anyone says, we chose the government so it would serve us, but it doesn't serve us. We support it financially. They've intimidated people. Men are afraid to go to the front. And that's why people are stressed, panicked, and afraid for their lives. And that's why they can't do anything about this government. Earlier, 2 or 3 weeks ago, they prepared a document, an official request, and sent it to Israel in order to extradite Mindich back here to Ukraine. Why hasn't this been done yet during all this time? But now we have a conflict with Israel. What happened? The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine is officially summoning the Israeli ambassador to Ukraine because of the situation where the country, Israel, accepted Russian ships with stolen Ukrainian grain. Zelensky is preparing sanctions. So what do you think? Is this grain the real reason for the quarrel, or is Mindich's extradition involved in this as well, just like with the men?
No, it might be somehow connected, but personally, I don't really believe that. What is this matter really about? The thing is, Zelensky is the kind of person who will always look for enemies. Before he could do it personally, but probably he didn't do it that much. And now a small man has suddenly become big. He has these kinds of opportunities now. But did you read the statement from the Israeli Foreign Ministry? They spoke out and said, "You didn't give us any proof. You didn't even make an official request. You already decided everything for yourselves." Went on Twitter and announced it all. People, that's not how things are done in the real world. That's not how it's done in Western civilization, even in the era of artificial intelligence and social networks, when politics is done on social media. Still, when we're talking about a state and another state, things need to be done in a civilized and evidence-based way. This won't accomplish anything. We'll just argue with Israel, a friendly country. That's all. Once again, Zelensky himself is stirring up a wave of anti-Semitism with this, just like Mindich and everyone else. I mean, you understand, back in 2022, I already knew what would happen, that all of this would happen. But now, in 2026, if the war continues, I'm telling you, things will happen that will make everything we're discussing now seem like nonsense, as always. Because if you give them another year or two to keep abusing the country like this, Tatiana, they're shoving men into vans. People are working hard somehow, paying taxes, keeping the economy going, donating. Someone is donating to someone, I don't want to say like Prychler or Sternenko or someone like that. And Mindich, and here we have a tender for 7 billion hryvnias or dollars, it doesn't matter. I think $7 billion were allocated for drones. What are hryvnias? That's nonsense. And for Firepoint drones, we are like this. Umarov handles all of this. Well, I know some spicy details. I have an idea that I won't go into detail about Umarov on air just yet, but I do have some information. But Umarov was still the Minister of Defense back then, I think. Right.
He's now deputy head of the delegation in Peremoga.
Yes, no, the report is Budanov's, but he's an important person in the delegation, and he's the head of the NSDC. The head of National Security and Defense, just use these titles. They're sitting there and he says to him, listen, just stay as minister for another year so we can finish our business here. It's like while a civilian is under fire right now, Odessa, Dnipro, Kiev, Kharkiv are being bombed, and they're like, just stay as minister for another year so we can pump Firepoint up to $1 billion company, then sell it, cash out, we'll be rich, and maybe then we'll think about ending the war. We don't want to, but Firepoint is doing well. And then Dima Gordon will come out for free, absolutely for free. He'll sit some random guy next to him who will say that we're going to bomb the Kremlin the day after tomorrow. We'll invent air defense, of course. You'll invent it, of course. You'll invent it using Western subsidies, using the state budget. The whole country will be working for you. That's the Stalin and Hitler scenario where entire countries worked just for one thing. The military, the military, the military. At gunpoint, go to the factory, make shells, do this, do that, and then go die at the front for the idea of one or another madman. That's what it's come to. Everyone works like slaves except instead of Stalin, who at least had ideology. He didn't live a luxurious life, he had his own quirks, but still, the USSR, wow, the Soviet people, that was power. But these guys just want money, and I'm after money myself. But only in business, in the marketplace. Not to bend the whole country, start a war, get tangled up in it. Putin started it, this guy got involved, got tangled up, and now he's provoking and sometimes even escalating it. And Trump is bad, and that's a very important signal to people when you talk about Trump somewhere, or say Trump should do something, or you promised. So Trump makes a ceremony out of it. And the FBI and other agencies, they've all known this for a long time, just so you understand. They've all known this for a long time. They're investigating. Someone gave them everything. They have everything documented, a huge amount of information. Hundreds of criminal cases or dozens have been opened. But if the people of Ukraine just swallow this, Trump will never help you, because Trump has enough of his own problems. He's dealing with America. You have to want it, and then help will come.
It's a terrible situation. If this happened, people saw it and they don't know what to do with this information. But there is international law. There are some international courts. if they see that Umar was involved in these matters? Well, why does he continue to remain in the delegation? At that point, it's obvious, well, it seems obvious that these people are interested in the war continuing, because this whole deal was being divided up, but he still continues to be in the delegation, supposedly. If all of this is correct, if you believe this, it seems he is acting in his own interest. So where are the international court and law in all this?
No, the international court, like The Hague, is a huge process. And there they try people for international crimes. You thieves stealing from your own people is a problem for your country and its people, not for The Hague, which doesn't work anyway, or other courts. Here, Tatiana, I have an answer about Umarov, but as I said, I can't share it on air. I understand why he's in the delegation and everything else. There was a funny moment in the recordings. Someone told him to stay minister for another year, then go to America. That's what they said, some kind of space center, something like that. Yeah, something space, something like that. They've already learned the ropes here, like how do you open a business in America? You see, when you're in Ukraine in one of the top positions and you think, okay, I'll work here for now, make some money, and then go to America. But that's not about Ukraine. You're not going to just sit and think about how great Ukraine is. I'll live here, my kids will too, and I'll grow my business here, so I need good business conditions. So right now we're talking about this Dorotich here. I'm for the single tax, for VAT. Think about it. Do Myrovo and Mindich even care about this VAT and everything else? Are they even part of this system? Mindich has cash. People know him. He knows how to cash out. There are completely different goals there. Myrovo needs all this, these problems. He needs Yelisevych's reform program, but he doesn't care about any of you. Here are his tenders. Here are his hundreds of millions. He'll leave a multi-millionaire, go to America, and sit in Florida sunbathing with a cigar. That's it. That's how everything works.
These taxes weren't cancelled, they were only postponed, and they're saying they'll introduce them later. And now, according to the media, Ukraine could run out of money as early as June. Well, we were recently approved for this loan, but we'll have to introduce new taxes for the population to meet IMF conditions. If this isn't implemented, Kyiv could be left without aid and loans from the European Union. It's the same thing again.
That's a myth, Tatiana. As someone who knows a bit about economics, if you raise taxes in the current situation, by the way, you don't have to be a great economist to understand this. First, businesses shut down. Second, they go underground until they're caught. When they're caught, they close. Third, they relocate. That's it. Well, relocation if they can. Or they close this business, go to Poland and open another one. It won't bring in any additional budget revenue. There will be a decrease. That's the law of economics. Read about what the Laffer curve is. That's exactly what it's about. There's an optimal low tax rate where everyone pays. It's beneficial for you to pay and not have any problems. All of this has long been calculated by specialists from the proper school of economics. And this is just what the IMF wants. Because the IMF, you see, they don't understand our countries at all. They assume raising taxes works like turning up a computer's volume. It just increases. But that's not true, especially during wartime. These are exactly the right questions that people should be asking. And of course, Ukraine should be governed by people who are going to live there. That's fundamentally important. And by those who are interested in all these issues and know them deeply from their own experience. Otherwise, nothing will come of this. Zelensky doesn't need to act. His Kvartal companies have been offshore in Cyprus for a long time, outside the financial system. 1+1, they paid for those contracts outside the financial system. Here, it's only for living, for some property. That's all. And then there are these guys like Mindich Umerov. Kubrakov was also a minister. He was mentioned. And there are other recordings with him where they discuss things. No way. Kubrakov or Galushkin, it doesn't matter.
Both of them.
I've already been a minister there for 4 years. It's about time to finish. He says, let me finish being an ambassador, find me a place somewhere, and we discussed this with you before. And then there was this black show. It's obvious to a physiognomist. Just look at his face. You shouldn't let someone like that near you. He's their friend, and they exposed him themselves. Did you hear he's using the stolen money to build himself a house? It's just a gathering of clowns, a freak show. I hear they don't even count the money. Those builders probably charge them 3 times as much. That's what I hear. And do you know why they're in control? They're not stupid when it comes to themselves. There's so much money flowing. What's 100,000? He even discusses these renovations with that woman. Over there, it's more expensive. That's how the money goes. And why is that? Like I said, it falls from the sky. Your friend is the president, Vova. Vova's on the tapes. Do you think Vova isn't getting his share? And he looks like an old man at 47? No. Vova gets his share.
But this money doesn't come from nowhere either. It's paid through taxes. This money is collected from American taxpayers' taxes. Then it's given to Ukraine because Ukraine needs help, as European leaders said. Maybe Europeans are against it, but the leaders said, pay your taxes, we will help Ukraine because it's a priority. If not, the war will be here. It's better to help with taxes. So it didn't just fall from the sky. This is someone's hard-earned money that Ukrainian officials appropriated. And none of them want to ask about this money or return it.
Well, Europe is in a deep crisis, and Merz has already said it openly. We talked about this before. I used to get hate for it, but now everyone stopped Merz. They've all said it openly. Well, there is an upside to this war, since we're dealing with our own problems here, and let Ukraine fight. That's how it is. Pretty cynical, said outright. Now Europeans are paying 40 to 50% of their salaries so that Mindich can build a house in Sumerovo. Well, of course, that's a bit harsh, but that's basically how it is. Yes, at this time, Europe is rearming, but Mindich's house is also going up. That's it, just like that.
They could have not paid these taxes. They could have told their authorities that we don't want to do this. Stop collecting these taxes from us because we won't pay them. But for some reason, they don't say this.
And I'll explain to you why. Because in most European countries, there are globalist appointees who are running the policy, and now they're already censoring things. If someone starts to speak out now, they will definitely start imposing some sanctions, giving sentences or probation. Basically, they'll try to intimidate people so they don't post or discuss it on social media. Overall, only a handful of people in Europe speak out, maybe 5 or 6 total. Second, it's about the European Commission head, von der Leyen. People can't influence or elect her. She's chosen by the Commission. A handful of bureaucrats, which is also not direct democracy. That's not right. And this is what we come to. Do you know why Putin feels so confident? Because Putin should be called out as a dictator. People of a different mindset, real Democrats, those who support democracy. But when you call out Putin saying you're a dictator, you're bad. Yet you yourselves have already adopted half of his methods. You just haven't started openly imprisoning people or starting wars yet, you know? You haven't descended into that kind of blatant Putin-style lawlessness. But there are already signs of it. They've installed their own presidents. Canceling elections, all these things they're doing. Some corruption is coming to light, some vaccine procurements. That's why everything is really, really bad. They created Putin, I keep repeating like a parrot on every broadcast. Look at Putin's Munich speech from 2007. He came out and said, I'm going to arm myself and attack you. They sat there laughing and paid him money. And that's exactly what he did now. Instead of stopping him earlier with sanctions, blocking economic growth, or even organizing a coup to bring a Democrat to power in Russia. They didn't do that. And now that's it. Let's have an endless war. They're rearming. The world has gone crazy. And of course, there's no common sense in any of this. Trump, Milei, and a couple of other people around the world who need to be supported. But you know what the good news is? In the polls, the right is leading everywhere. In Germany, the AfD is already much higher than the ruling party. And Merz has a trust rating of 13%. Macron has 18%. Tatiana, when the president's approval rating is 18%, that means out of 100 people, 82 don't trust him. That's it. He no longer represents the interests of the people. This applies to Zelensky too. His rating is half as high. He only represents those profiting from the war. Let's include all the brainwashed propagandists and those who believe their propaganda. There are local elections in Britain right now, not parliamentary ones. After these, for example, they might say to a minister goodbye like this Starmer. Who's leading there? Just the right-wingers with a big lead in all the polls. It's not like here. The poll numbers there are real. In France, everyone is right-wing, and in France, the elections are next year. So gradually, we have a chance. They'll claim these are pro-Russian.
Oleksiy Honcharenko is also concerned about what you're saying, but he says that we have other opportunities. As long as these people who are currently in power are here, we need to do everything possible to join the European Union. Because right now the window of opportunity is open for us. He really made a strong point about this. He says that in exactly 1 year, there will be elections in France. Right now, Bardella and Le Pen are confidently in the lead. If the far right comes to power, Ukraine's path to joining the EU could be closed for decades. So we need to act now, even if this membership is limited, even if the restrictions concern farmers, it doesn't matter. The main thing is to join the European Union now under the leadership of the people who are currently in power. Why is he in such a hurry to get there? Why is he urging us to join? What do you think?
Let me explain. I know the answer to this question because he's a guy who speaks French well and English pretty well. His sponsors put him into these positions a long time ago. He travels around Europe and has made connections. They act like Ukraine is civilized and our politics are too. But in reality, he behaves like a clown in the Verkhovna Rada, surrounded by phones. And so, what kind of opportunity is this for him? Then there will be Ukrainians in the European Parliament. Then there will be Ukrainians. Honcharенko is aiming for the European Parliament. You understand? He's a careerist. That's what he is, a careerist. That's his interest. What does Honcharенko need? A market economy, low taxes? Is he going to start a business? No. That's your answer. You also mentioned something else about him. If the right wing takes power, shut the door for 10 years. So now, should we open it?
And now open it halfway. To join with restrictions, not to have the privileges that Europeans from other countries in the European Union have, but with restrictions still to join, to be in the European Union.
Look, Tatiana, I am a staunch opponent of joining the European Union because we need a free economy, freedom, so that we can rise up and compete with them. Honcharенko is pushing for something in any way possible. So, just imagine, if Ukraine were a full member, there would be a lot of downsides, but still, it's a plus. You have a European passport, you can open an account in any European bank, live, get an education, work. So, after all, for an individual citizen, there are some. Everyone will leave, of course, but there is a personal benefit for the citizen in this. What does this halfway mean? It means you have no rights, but you're listed somewhere. You understand? Well, if I put on a general's uniform in the armed forces of Ukraine, that doesn't make me a general in the armed forces of Ukraine, but I can still give them a run for their money. That's about the same kind of comparison I can make. Regarding the doors, they are closed. It's all fake and nonsense. They are closed. Merz said this clearly. I'm referring to direct, full membership. They said not the 27th, not the 28th, and moreover, they said that if we ever really get to this, you will have to recognize the loss of territory. Do you understand? And I talked about this, guys. I don't like it. It hurts me too, but we'll have to admit it. Crimea will never be ours again. I'm not even talking about Donbas, but Crimea will never be ours again. And I watched my opponent's interview with Masachuk and Brodsky. And he told how back in '92 I posted this on my Telegram. Check it out if you're interested. Kravchuk told him, Misha, don't invest money in Crimea. I asked, why? They'll take our land for nothing. And Chernobyl was pushing for federalization. He understood everything perfectly and sensed it all very well. And that's exactly how it all happened. But people here were convinced that life was impossible without Crimea. I've been to Crimea, Tatiana, maybe 10 times. My parents took me there when I was a kid, and I always felt like a stranger there. I have no problems with the Crimean Tatars, but everyone else there is so pro-Russian. You see, they're different, and it's the same in Sevastopol, different people. I don't think they're bad, but they're different from me, which always made me uncomfortable there. People have been fed these mantras. These language activists and others who can't imagine life without Crimea and mention 1991 have never been to Donbas. I have. I've been to both Mariupol and Donetsk. And they probably haven't been to Crimea either. So it's all just words. And now it's good that you actually remembered. Now let's ask ourselves a question. What if we retake Crimea and Donbas tomorrow? Would that somehow stop Mindich and all those people at Firepoint? No, they would just find new businesses for themselves there. There's the sea, the land is great, you can build hotels, grab some of that land. In Donbas, there are some industrial enterprises, some mines, you can get involved in something, that's it. It's not about the people. But if you make Ukraine's main asset the human mind and give people the opportunity to develop the lowest taxes in Europe, a super business climate, and personal freedoms, then, like in Israel, something will start to grow. They have leading agriculture without even a drop of black soil. We may not have black soil, but we have brains. We'll use them to learn how to grow things without it, just like they did. That's what we should do too. We lived with Crimea, Donbass, we lost them. We had nuclear weapons, we lost them. The army, the weapons, we lost them. The enterprises, we lost them. These questions are for us, about how we voted, first and foremost to those who were in power, but also for ourselves. Why have we been voting for people like this for 35 years? Now we might lose even more territory, so let's get serious. Excuse me, I have another announcement. I'm about to join a stream about Managergate and on Friday as well. Today is Wednesday, Friday will be May 1st exactly. May 1st I will show you what Jared Kushner said. It was on your channel. I will tell you all about it in detail. what it means to use your head, to think like an American. Stop. You need to think about how to become richer. In Ukraine, this question never arises. Drones, kids. Of course, kids with drones are needed, Tatiana. With drones that Mindich will buy. And all the kids need to do this because a lot of drones will be needed. And a good contract for Mindich and Zelensky. Do you understand what the whole point is? That's what all this is for. That's why they need these semi-fake nationalists. Why they need all this militarism. So that a war will eventually happen. And now let's get to the main point. All right, I'll say the same thing I said on the stream. Now, do you understand why Boyanov is nervous? Because he sat down with his buddies and did the math. Guys, if I don't run now, my standing will be unquestioned. And now we're going to bring the heat. And they did. They made billions.
People are suffering. Now the deputies are inactive. They're also involved in some schemes. The parliament member says that now we need to solve the issue with the exemption. So the deputies aren't saying that we need to solve the issue of ending the war now, how to stop it, how to bring these people to justice. One deputy speaks out saying that the age should be lowered from 23 and that people should already be called up for service. A female deputy, Irina Friz, says that a gray area has formed in Ukraine for draft dodgers and they simply buy and sell exemptions. So all Ukrainians should have their exemptions removed. The only exception is for those who work in the defense sector. That's what this is about. No one is planning to repent. People are discussing how to protect themselves because some have exemptions and some are employed. Now people will lose them. What happens next?
You know, Tatiana, these are absolutely petty, low, disgusting individuals, cannibals. Continue the war? You know, I am proud that I will go down in history as the first one who started to speak about this openly and who has always called for peace. Because for me, everything is real, but for them, it's just business and politics. That's the whole point. It's so vile. You know, after yesterday, if someone is still completely clueless, excuse me, after yesterday, you need to sit down and think about it. Now it's clear what the war is for, right? It needs to end. If your favorite politician, whoever it is, whether it's Poroshenko or the Holos Party or Soros or Lyashko, or those great barber shops are telling you that the war needs to continue. That's because it's their whole life. For some, it's financial. For others, it's social. That's all there is to it. I'm not against that. Well, except for this wartime slavery. They can do the same thing within a professional volunteer army. But the whole country should live, smile, and prosper. Remember those who died for this country. Tatiana, how do mothers, wives, and sisters of those who died feel now? Imagine, a relative has died and you look in Messenger and see how they're making money. And who did the TCC grab? Yesterday, the draft office grabbed my son, and some mother is thinking. And here they are making billions. Is that fair? That's exactly what we don't need. And when some, I heard their scoundrels come on your show and talk about how things should be like in Israel or like in Switzerland. So in Israel and Switzerland, you have to start with freedoms, with democracy, with the economy, with philosophy, with the constitution. In the end, you have to start somewhere. Well, actually, Israel doesn't have a constitution. It's a religious state. Only after that should everything else follow. People won't just blindly go sacrifice themselves. However, in Ukraine, some did. Driven by their love for Ukraine, many went to the military enlistment office at the war's start. But now, no one will go anymore. And people are saying that there too, by the way. Even I had a good broadcast. You also had one yesterday with Vitaly Kupri. He's currently discussing an important topic, which I also support. Foreigners should be brought in to fight, so Ukrainians don't have to. Good suggestion, but it's not needed now and won't work. The war must end urgently. You understand? The country is suffocating without elections or a political process. Let me just say one last thing. Imagine if tomorrow the state TV marathon is turned off. This censorship is lifted. On YouTube, people will start speaking more boldly too. And we start discussing things specifically. This person is running, that one, another one. Here are the elections. Here's a party. Here are the proposals. That's what I mean. And people will see hope in this. Like, listen, at least this. And those who don't want to look for this hope, who don't even want to believe me, for example, they should have the right to leave. I'll try to do everything I can to bring them back if I have that authority. But they should have the right to leave, not because of a title like some people have claimed. They come on the air and, you know, they hate the Ukrainian people so much. They wear Ukrainian embroidered shirts, but they hate these people so much. You can see it in their faces. They hate this nation. All they want is me, me, me. They want everyone else to be repressed, go and suffer. And money, money, and money from the war. That's the plain truth. Whether someone likes me or not, that's the plain truth.
Discussing the candidates would be the most interesting part, and I'm really looking forward to it. I hope everyone we invite comes on our show, since currently none of the people's deputies wants to come on our show.
Mazurashev comes.
Mazurashev is everywhere. And sometimes Ruslan Gorbenko, he used to come before, but now he doesn't want to anymore. He doesn't like it. I don't know why.
He doesn't like something.
None of the other deputies want to come to us anymore, but then they will all start coming. We will discuss together with them what proposals they have for the people. We will ask why they are behaving this way and why they are inactive now. Someday the time for this will probably come. But what are the doubts? Behind such powerful people, you could say, people who are presidential candidates whom we know, there are oligarchs standing behind them. For example, Zolotaryov or Yermolayev says an oligarch backs Budanov, another supports Zaluzhny, and a different one backs another candidate. So it's those same oligarchs again, their names haven't changed.
Sorry, I heard yesterday that Dicky Vitali sometimes comes to you. On his channel, I heard Skorokhod telling the same story. This person is backing one candidate, that person is backing another. And so I asked another channel that had approached me to organize a debate, a conversation, whatever you want to call it, with Skorokhod. I have some questions, but so far she hasn't agreed. And I invite any current member of parliament to very polite, cultured, business-like debates without anything personal, just about the matter at hand. No one has anything to say, because behind those who are telling these stories, there are also certain people standing. They also offer nothing to the people.
I'm talking about the elections. When we start talking about the elections, it will be the same candidates again, with the same oligarchs standing behind them as now.
Of those you know, when it comes to these issues, that's absolutely true. If we push for real democratic elections and drop the rule about how many years someone has lived there, we also discussed this with Kupri, a professional lawyer, regarding the 10-year residency requirement in Ukraine. That's fine, just not during war or dictatorship, excuse me. If tomorrow you flip Cuba and say, guys, only those who have lived in Cuba for the last 10 years can run for office, how would that work? Or in North Korea, you see, or in Russia for that matter. But that won't work. And it's the same now in Ukraine. So, if you do it that way, people are in for big surprises. There will be a lot of new faces. It will really be a chance for people to choose someone who will represent them. And this chance should be given. The legislation for parliament needs to be changed. 5% is too much. Now there are more opportunities, because before TV, you had no options. Javier Milei won via social media. In Ukraine, social media dominates. They ended television's supremacy. TV still has some influence, but it's not what it was. Thanks to the telethon, everyone will be on YouTube listening to Liberty UA. Thank you.
I hope so. People, I urge you to subscribe to our channel, leave us comments, share this video with your friends. Be sure to subscribe to Dennis's channel. Dennis, to wrap up, can you tell us how people can sign up for your merch, where to find it, and what steps to take? Thank you.
Well, I'll ask you to leave a link to the merch in the pinned comment. People will follow it. There's a pre-registration right now. Nothing has launched yet. It will take another 7 to 10 days. You can pre-register with your email to get notified. I'll share the link.
Thank you. Here's another question. Are there any risks for people? I mean, could they be persecuted by the authorities? No, they can't.
Once again. My ideology and merch aren't against anyone. If tomorrow, after Zelensky, it's Poroshenko, I'll say good or bad things depending on what's here. There won't be any caricatures, no insults. First of all, even if there wasn't a dictatorship, I don't do that kind of thing. We stand for something first and foremost, not against. Or not against. No risks, no insults. Not even my face will be shown. Only ideology, only legal protest, that's all. Everything is definitely 100% safe.
People, I think this proposal may interest you, because if you don't join such initiatives, you'll end up under the influence of those same oligarchs who are in power now and do nothing. They are not alone, they stand behind those in power. Maybe some deputies want to join the debates to appear on air. We would be glad to see you. Anyone from different factions, from different parties, please come. Thank you for your attention. All the best.
Thank you.